Hello, good morning friends. Welcome back to your favorite channel Code One Digest. Today in this video, I'll teach you how can you run your Node.js API application into Amazon Elastic Container Service. Yes friend, I'll show you how can you deploy, how can you run your Node.js application into ECS service. How can you make your Node.js application as a containerized application. How can you create a container image out of your Node.js application. Then how to deploy that container image into ECS service. I'll teach you all of these in simple step. And if you follow this video, if you watch this video till end, you will be able to learn the Elastic Container Service, Node.js, Docker, all in one tutorial. Right, friend? So stay tuned and watch this video till end. It is going to be very exciting and very informative tutorial for you today. Okay? Okay, friends. So here is the agenda of this tutorial today. I'll explain you what is this demo all about, what are we trying to do in this project. Then I'll explain you the same through architecture diagram, what all components are there in this demo. Then I'll show you how can you write a Node.js API application. Then how can you containerize your Node.js API application, how to write Dockerfile, how to create container image out of that application. Finally, we'll test and upload that Docker container image to our Docker Hub repository. Finally, after testing the container image in local, we'll be uploading that image to Docker Hub repository. Once that is done, then I'll show you how do you set up ECS service in AWS. That is our Elastic Container Service. I'll show you how to create a cluster for ECS service, how to create task definition in ECS service. Then I'll run that task definition. Finally, we'll be testing our Nodejs endpoint, which is running in ECS service. And at the end, I'll be summarizing what we learned. Okay, don't worry. I'll teach you in simple steps so that you will never forget. If you want to learn Node.js, if you want to learn AWS Elastic Container Service, if you want to learn Docker, then this is a tutorial for you. Right, friends? So stay with me and watch this tutorial till end. Okay, friends. So here is the architecture of this tutorial, what we are trying to achieve. We are creating the Node.js application in local and finally uploading that container image to our Docker Hub repository here, right, from our local. We'll be setting up the ECS service in AWS and we are creating a cluster inside that. We are defining a task definition for that ECS service. In the task definition, we are giving, I want to use Docker image of my application that I have uploaded from my local. Finally, I'll be creating a container inside this cluster and I'll run this task definition inside this container. And in that container, it will be running in a node server. Finally, this container and this cluster will be running on Fargate service, that is our serverless architecture. We'll be opening the firewall port 8080 so that the traffic can come through 8080 from outside world. And then we'll be testing those endpoints. The request will come to 8080 port. It will pass that request to the application running inside the container. Right, friends? So these are very simple architecture. I'll teach you in easy steps and you will be able to do it yourself if you follow me in this tutorial. Right, friends? So stay with me and watch this tutorial till end. It is going to be very informative. Friends, before we proceed in this video, I request you to subscribe this channel to grow Code One Digest family. Friends, I'm creating a lot of quality videos on programming, coding concepts, design pattern and design principles, cloud and container technologies, but I'm not getting subscribers. I request you to like, share and subscribe this channel so that I can grow our Code One Digest family. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Okay friends, so now let me show you my Node.js API project, very simple project. Okay. So this is my Node.js API project where I have a package.json and I have only three dependencies: body parser, CORS, and Express. Express to support HTTP support, microservice support, to create routes. So all those capabilities will come from Express. Body parser, it's kind of a middleware that helps Express to convert the body of post request for the processing. So these three dependencies we have added. Very simple, no fancy item, right? Let me show you my server.js, right? This is our main JavaScript file where I'm importing the body parser, CORS and Express and defining a port 8080 so that I can run my server on 8080 port, taking an instance of app from Express, and in that app I am setting the body parser and CORS. Finally, I'm defining two routes. One is slash, it is printing welcome to Nodejs API project, and second is slash hello to return the hello world string, right? Finally, I'm starting my server here, app.listen on the port. That port is defined above, and printing the message in the log on the console is server is up and running on port. Very simple, 2 minutes application. Let me show you, let me run this application into my local and see if that is working fine. Next step is we'll upload this code to a GitHub repository so that we can use it in our cloud. Let me do that. So this is my directory where I have a code. Let me open a command prompt and I'll say node server.js. Okay. So it will start the server. Yes. So server is started 8080, right? And that means the application is working fine. Let me hit that in my local and see if it is working fine. HTTP localhost 8080 slash. Yes, so it is printing that message. Welcome to Node.js API project. Let me test another endpoint quickly. Hello. So yes, I'm getting the response hello world. That means both of my endpoints are working fine. Let me show you the Docker file quickly to create image for our application. This Docker file is placed at the root of my project and all my files are also residing in the same directory. That means my source file, my package.json, everything is in the same folder. Hence, our folder structure will be used here accordingly. So first I am downloading Node 18 and then I'll be creating a directory source in my container and then I'll making my working directory as a source. So now all my artifacts, all my file will be inside this source directory. Now in next step, what I'm doing is I'm copying the package.json file from current folder to slash source slash package.json. I'm running npm install to download all the dependencies to have our node module directory created inside the container. Once this is done, then I'm copying all the files, all the source from current folder, that means our server.js and so on, to source directory. It will copy everything. Finally, I'm exposing port 8080 and starting my application, that is command, and the command is node server.js, right? And we'll be hitting the 8080 and see if the application is up and running. So now what I'll do is I'll build a container image of this application and see if that image is successfully running into a container. Let me do that. Let me build a command first for that. So here is a command like docker build -t is for tag and code one digest slash node.js hello world API. Okay, this is the tag and dot for the current directory. Now what I'll do is I'll take this command and run that into a directory where I have my Docker file. So here is my project directory. Let me clear everything. So here is my Docker file. These are the instruction in the Docker file, right? What we saw, and let me copy the command and paste it here. So now what it will do is it will create an image and it will be added to our local repository. So Docker images, so these are the images that I have. So I've copied this command and now I'll paste that and let me run this. So it is building, it is downloading the dependencies and will create the image. It will take few minutes. Let us wait. Still doing it. So once this image is created, it will be listed in my local repository and then after this I will run that image into a container and see if that is working fine. Once the image is successfully running in a container and we are able to hit the API, then I will upload this image to my global Docker Hub repository, public Docker Hub repository, so that we can use that image from there into our ECS service. Right, friends? Still taking time. Already 70 seconds are done. Let us give some more time. Okay, friends. So image is created now, and I can see that it is listing now at the top of all the images. Let me show you that Docker images, right? So do you see this image? This is just now created, and it is of size 1.1 GB. Right, friends? So now what we'll do is, as a next step is, we'll run this image into our Docker container, and we'll see if we are able to hit the API. Let us see if any Docker container already running. So for that, we have a command docker ps. So there is no container running. Let me prepare a command to run the Docker container for this image. Here is the command. So if you see docker run -p, I'm using -p option for the port mapping. I'm mapping the internal port, container port 8080 to our local machine port 8080, right? So that we will be hitting the URL localhost 8080, and that will be able to hit the container port through this port mapping. Hence the request will be served from the container. And then finally, after the port mapping, I have the image name, that is our code one digest Nodejs Hello World API. Let me copy this. We'll run this now. Let me go back to my console. No container running. Let me put that command here. I have pasted the command here and hit it, right? So it says the server is up and running on port 8080. Now what I'll do is, let me hit in a browser on 8080 and see if the response is coming, right? I have opened a browser. Let me put HTTP localhost 8080 slash. Okay, so yes, I'm getting response, and this is coming from container, right? Let me put another endpoint hello. So yes, I'm getting response. That means our image is working absolutely fine. We are getting the response to our endpoints, and it is working absolutely fine. So now next step is, I'll upload this image to my Docker Hub repository, that is Code One Digest Docker Hub repository, so that we will be able to use this into our ECS service. Okay, friends, let me do that. So here is the command docker push, and this is the tag, name and tag of my image. So let me copy this command and paste it here. Yes, yes. So it is now pushing it to Docker Hub repository, that is public repository. So it is pushing it now. If you see, it is sending all the data. It will take few minutes time, as that image is of 1 GB, and it is gonna take some time. Yes, so it says done. Let me go to my repository and see if it is available there. Let me see that. Yes, friends. So now I have logged in into my Docker Hub repository. Now let me refresh this to see if I got the image over here. Yes. So do you see, this is at the top. We have this image uploaded just now. Code One Digest, Nodejs Hello World. Let me go inside and see. So this is a tag that we have to use. So we'll be using this tag while downloading, while using this image into our ECS container. Okay, friends. So now let's start setting up the AWS ECS service, our Elastic Container Service, as we are going to deploy our Node.js API project, Node.js API application into a container service. Hence, we have to create container service, Elastic Container Service into AWS. Okay, so go in a Google and search for AWS Management Console. Log into your account. I'll be logging into my account. If you don't have account, you can create the account. Log in as a root user so that you will have all the permissions and privileges. I'm logging as a Code One Digest user. You see some of the frequently used services will be listed on your home. And if you don't have, you can search any service through a search text box. Same way, I'll be searching for ECS service, Elastic Container Service. This service we are going to use to deploy our application into cloud. Okay, so Elastic Container Service is nothing but it provides you a container service where you can deploy your container images and run your application into those container, right, friends? It is similar to run it in your Docker container in local, right? So in the same way, they will provide you a container where you will be deploying your image. In this Elastic Container Service, we have one option of running the application as a serverless. Serverless means we don't want any hardware. We don't want to have any responsibility of managing the hardware, hence we'll go for serverless. So in this demo also I'll be showing you the Elastic Container Service running on Fargate, that is serverless. Fargate is nothing but a serverless component. So this is the homepage of our Elastic Container Service. So there are three steps when we deploy any application into Elastic Container Service. First, you have to create a cluster. Second, you have to create a task definition. And task definition will tell what is the image you have to deploy, what all ports you have to enable, and all of that, right? And third thing is you have to run it on any of the hardware. That means either you go for a serverless architecture or you can select the any EC2 instance to deploy this container. The first thing that we'll do is we'll be creating a cluster. Let me click on the cluster. So we don't have any cluster here. This is a cluster page. So click on create cluster, and now we have to provide some information, right? Let's say Nodejs hello world demo cluster, right? This is given. Now I'm going to run it as a serverless AWS Fargate, hence it is selected. We can choose to use on EC2 or any external instance, but I'll go with serverless Fargate architecture. Okay. For monitoring and for tagging, we can leave all the configuration as is, as this is a demo application, hence I am not enabling any monitor service. Just click on this create cluster button. It will be creating the cluster for me now. The cluster is now getting created. It says the creation is in progress. It will take maybe few minutes to create the cluster. Now next step what we'll do is we'll create a task definition. And task definition is where we have to provide all the information. Yeah, okay friends. So now the cluster is created. Now what is the next step is, next step is to create the task definition. Now let me click on the task definition, and here we have to create a new task definition. Create new task definition. So you have to give the name here again, like Node.js hello world task definition. Now infrastructure, I'll be running it on AWS Fargate. Now we have to select the operating system that I'll be using this operating system, but there are multiple operating system available like Linux ARM, Linux 86 or Windows and so on. But I'll be going with the default Linux operating system. Network mode, let's go with the default. Now here we have to select the CPU. How many CPUs, how much memory we want for this task. So there are multiple options. So one CPU I'm taking, and I'm going with one CPU and 3 GB as a default one. And the task role conditional, leaving it as is. Now we'll be creating a container. Now we have to provide a container information because this is going to run in a container, hence provide the detail of the container here. So I'll say Node.js hello world container, right? So this name I have given, and this is where I have to give the path of our image that we want to deploy. So you remember I've shown you that I've uploaded my application image, Node.js application image to dockerhub repository. So let me go inside this project. This is my dockerhub account, and as I shown you, right, inside the tags I have this tag. Okay, so this is the tag I have to use here. So here repository URL and image and tag, right? So let me put that. So this is nothing but, okay, this is my repository name and this is my tag, right? Now what we have to do is, here you see a container port. So this container port by default it's allowing traffic on 80, but now we have to add one more port for a container because we want to expose our 8080 port to outside world, hence adding a port 8080, and you have to select a TCP here, protocol, HTTP, right? And that's it. Okay, this is done. Port 8080 we have given here. Rest of the information let it be as is. Environment variable, if I have to give any environment variable, but I don't have any environment variable, use log collection, let it be default. And storage optional, I am not touching any other information. Now let me create this task definition. We are done with. So do you want to see the configuration one more time? I've given the task definition name here, selected the Fargate where it will launch, and operating system, default operating system Linux x86 64, selected one CPU, 3 GB memory, And now container information. In container information, I have provided container name, the image URL from Docker repository, and I have given additional port mapping here, created a port mapping for 8080, right, for my container. This is done. Now just say create task definition, create, right? So it is now creating that task definition for me. Cluster this has been created, task definition successfully created, right? So it says the task definition is created. So let me click on the task definition. If you see, it says active, but it is not running right now. We will be running this task definition so that we can test our application. To do that, go into deploy dropdown here and say run task. Now it will open another form where it will ask me choose a cluster and so on, because to run this task, I have to select a cluster that we have created already. So you will see the cluster, it's already available for me. So let it be this. We are not changing this configuration, and we are selecting the Fargate here, platform version latest, deployment configuration, task. We are running the task in this Fargate, family this, revision this. Now networking. So here we have this default VPC and these are the subnet. But in the security, we'll be now creating a new security group. Select this, create new security group, provide here. Let's say Nodejs Hello World SG. Okay. So this is security group name. I'll give the same in description as well. Now here what we have to give is we have to select a custom TCP port range. We have to open 8080 so that the traffic can come source from anywhere, right? We are opening a port in a firewall. So we are seeing that, okay, on TCP, open the port 8080 so that the traffic can come from anywhere, right? Once this is done, task override, let it be as is. We are not touching that. Container override, let it be as is. We are not touching that. And tags, again, if you want to give any tags. Now, what I'll do is I'll just say run. Now let's see what happens. So it's starting it, saying active. The task is provisioning. You see the status of the task here is provisioning. So it says it's pending. Let's wait for a couple of minutes. The service will be up and running soon. Yes. So now it says this task is up and running. Now what is important here is click on this task, go inside. So task overview, this is the task overview and this is a public IP. This is what we want, right? So this is how we can access the service. So this is the public IP. So I've copied the IP. Now I'll be pasting it here. I'll say HTTP 8080 slash. See, so now I'm getting a response for my endpoint slash endpoint, right? Welcome to the Nodejs API project, right? Now I'll test another endpoint by making slash hello, right? So I'm getting a response hello world. That means our application is successfully deployed in ECS service, Amazon Elastic Container Service, and we are able to hit the endpoint. We have opened the port 8080 successfully. We are able to run the Nodejs API into our ECS service. Right, friends? Clear? So your application is successfully running on Amazon AWS service. You can see the status of your application of your container here. So as we have seen that we have successfully deployed our Node.js API application into Amazon ECS service, Elastic Container Service, right friends? So now what I am doing next is to clean up the resources, right? As we have successfully tested our API, it is always a good practice to release the resources, to clean up all your resources. Otherwise, the server will be keep running and it will charge you. Okay, so it's always good practice. Once you are done with your testing, once you are done with the demo, or once you are done with your development, then you should stop all your service, all your resources, what you have created. So now what we'll do is we first stop our task definition. So this is the task definition we have. Section deregister, right? We want to deregister this. Now see, it become inactive, right? Now I'll go to the cluster. So this cluster is running. I have to stop this cluster. Now we have to delete a cluster, but before deleting a cluster, come to task and select this task and say stop. Stop all. So it will stop all the tasks that is running. You see, now there is no task running here. In the task tab, we don't see any task running in the cluster. Now you say delete cluster. Now you type delete Node.js hello world demo cluster. Now it is deleting the cluster. It will take maybe a minute. Yes, cluster is also deleted. I do not have any resources inside ECS service. I do not have cluster. I do not have any task definition. Hence, I have not reserved any resources from AWS. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you're new to the channel, so do subscribe to our channel to grow Code1Js family. Friends, if you want to learn AWS, if you want to learn Elastic Container Service, if you want to learn Node.js, if you want to learn how to deploy your application into Elastic Container Service, so this is a video for you. Okay, friends. So you need not to worry of the code if you don't want to create a Node.js API project. You can use this. You can use the same project. You can use this project. This is my repository code one digest, and this is a project Node.js Hello World API project. You can just download the code and use it and run it, right? This is the URL to clone the project. Just clone it in your local and run that in your local. So this is the repository for your reference. You can use it. I'll share the URL of this repository in the description section as well. Okay friends, so here is the summary of this tutorial, what we learned in this tutorial today. I gave you introduction of AWS ECS Service setup and Node.js API project. Then I shown you the architecture that we are trying to achieve, what we are trying to achieve in this tutorial. Okay, I shown you how to write a Node.js API project, how to create a Docker file, then how to create image for our Node.js API project, how to upload that Docker image to a Docker Hub repository. Then I explain you how do you create the ECS service in AWS, how to create cluster, how to write a task definition in ECS service, how to run the task definition into a cluster, into a Fargate service in a serverless architecture. And finally, we have tested our Node.js endpoint, which is running into ECS service. Right, friends? I hope you enjoyed the video. So give it a thumbs up if you like this video. And if you're new to the channel, so do subscribe to this channel to grow Code One Digest family. Right, friends? Friends, if you like this video, so give it a thumbs up and subscribe to this channel for the more interesting videos. Click on the bell icon for the latest video notifications and do not forget to share this video with all your friends and colleagues. This is very useful information for students, beginners and software engineers. I am putting a lot of efforts in creating these contents. So please help me growing the Code One Digest family. Please subscribe to Code One Digest channel for the latest programming and technology related videos. Thank you.